has gone down. Rather, there is certain midrashic understandings that it came down early, suddenly. Kiva shemesh. The sun came early. And the fact that the Torah says at the beginning, Vayifga b'makom, the Midrash also talks about that he wanted to pray in this area. Now, let's just say, leave the Midrash about prayer right aside right now, gentlemen. And he says that he takes the stones of the place. Vayikach mi'avnei hamakom. Okay? Later on, we're going to see that the stones turn into one Evan. As later on it states Evan and not Avnei. Why does he have to take several stones? Maybe for the length of his body. He's sleeping on maybe these stones, cushioning him for a certain way. In any event, he takes maybe another stone for his head. Again, you thought he had good conditions, huh? He's lying on stones. And then we're told about Vayachalom, his Chalom. And here we're learning about a prophetic dream. What does he see? A lot of symbolic importance to this of course, dream, in addition to the content. The fact that there's a sulam, a ladder that connects earth to heaven, that maybe means that we have to make our objectives as much related to godliness in our lives. Spiritual objectives, Torah objectives. Is there a way to climb up? Yeah, there's a ladder in this world. There's a ladder that connects earth to the sky. That's the way of Torah mitzvot. And there's a connection. The earth is certainly connected to the sky. And the fact that there are angels going up, that means we too can be on a pattern, in a way of life that we're climbing up. At the same time, there are malachim coming down. Okay? Is it true that divinity comes down to the planet of earth, comes down to our lives, inside our material, physical lives? Of course. So we see here there's a two-way ladder. Earthliness can be permeated with spirituality. And you, the person, you can climb up in your life and reach divine heights. Character trait building, Torah wisdom, mitzvah performance, and so on and so forth. Is it true that maybe Yaakov Avinu, who represents the coming of the nation of Israel, right? We're not learning about Avram per se, the person only, or Yitzchak per se, the person only, or Yaakov. We're learning about the forerunners of the nation of Israel. Like God told Avram, Ve'escha legoy gadol, I'll make you into a great nation. So to Yaakov, he's the third foot of the three-footed edifice that's the building of the Jewish people. Is it true that Yaakov is governed, ruled by angels? Or are the other nations ruled by the angels? So maybe for us to not misunderstand, the Torah says in Pasuk Gimel, in verse 13, in his Chalom, V'inei Hashem nitzav alav. It could be that there are malachim in the world, governing nations in the world, also agents for Yaakov Avinu. And why, if you ask, are the malachim first going up? Aren't the malachim first coming down from heaven? So Rashi brings the famous midrash that Yaakov is about to exit the land of Israel. Who is finishing his task? Those angels that are watching, supervising over him here in the land of Israel. And therefore, the dream starts with malachim climbing up. Malachei Eretz Yisrael that are leaving, finishing their task. And then, as he's about to go abroad, who's coming down? Malachei Chutz La'aretz, the angels of abroad, to watch over Yaakov Avinu. But it's not direct watching over. How do we know? Because it says, Hashem nitzav alav. What does it mean, Hashem nitzav alav? God is standing as if erect on the top of the ladder. The nation of Israel does not have conduits, does not have agents. We have direct providence from Hashem, and Hashem is standing on the ladder. This is a ladder that maybe is describing the trip of Yaakov Avinu. It's starting, the foot of the ladder, the Midrash says, is starting in Beersheba. It's apparently, if we go according to the Midrash, of Yaakov Avinu gets a green light to leave the country from Be'er Sheva. In other words, Nachon, he was in Hebron, but he went down south to get a green light. And as he gets the green light as he's traveling, the foot of the ladder, the Midrash says, is in Be'er Sheva. The top part of the ladder is his place where he has to arrive to, which is abroad, Haran. Where's the middle of the slope, the Midrash says? Over Yerushalayim. Over Yerushalayim. 3 places of notation for this ladder. And here it is, Hashem is hovering over the ladder. Direct contact with the patriarch Yaakov Avinu. Remember, Yaakov is the continuation of, and Yitzchak is a continuation of, a very famous midrashic term. I want you to know it. Maybe you heard it from your great rabbis. Ha'avot heim merkava lashchina. I repeat. The patriarchs, they are the merkava, like the chariots, the bearers of the divine presence. God's glory, greatness, is revealed through Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. So it makes sense that God is standing as if we're using, do we have a choice but to use physical terms? We don't mean it's only metaphorically. God doesn't have a body, he doesn't have feet, he doesn't have ears. But remember the following term the Talmud says in several places, and the Midrash, Dibra Torah Belashon B'nei Adam. The Torah spoke in the language of human beings. We can't describe God in supernatural terms that we're not aware of, that we can never use. So it says, metaphorically, God is like standing atop of the ladder. And now, remember, we know that Yaakov Avinu has anxiety probably, has fear probably. He hasn't had any TV shows to show him exactly what does it mean to be in Chutz La'aretz. He may have certainly heard from his mother. He knows it's a danger. And he's going to save his life and look for a wife at the same time. And there's a lot of fear. It's hard to work and serve God when you have this phobia, when you have this fear, you're in a state of anxiety. Hashem wants to reassure Yaakov Avinu that things are going to work out. Will life be glatt kosher? Do you know what the word glatt means?
Yeah. No question.
No questions. Chalak is the Hebrew word for glatt, which means smooth. Okay? Smooth with no... Is your life smooth with no questions involved? Excuse me, sir?
Always.
Always. Right? We all know life is not smooth. Life has complex situations, perplexities, ups and downs. And here comes God in a major prophecy. While Yaakov Avinu is sleeping, maybe in the place, which we have yet really to explain what it is. And first, let's read how God identifies himself. In the middle of Yud Gimel 13, by the way, there's so much length that we can speak about and depth we can speak about, but we don't have 60 hours to learn the Parsha, so we have to be short, and sometimes I hope you'll excuse me. Hashem says, Ani Yud-Kei Vav-Kei. Why use that name, Yud-Kei Vav-Kei?
To show that it's the same God as Abraham.
Yud-Kei Vav-Kei is a God of chesed, a God of mercy, a God of love. Haya, Hoveh, V'yeh. But what does it mean that I am transcendental, metaphysical to 3 times was, is, and will be? I'm going to tell you. Elokei Avraham Avicha. I'm the God of Avraham, your father. And as Rabbi Yehuda Levi explains in the Kuzari, and you all have known, this is adopted into our Amidah, our Shmon Esrei, Elokeinu ve'Elokei Avotenu. Then it says, God of Avraham, the God of Yitzchak. That's how we have the Amidah, the Shmon Esrei. The depth of it, what it means, is a God that reveals himself, a God that communicates with Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. They are prized. They are prophets. They are connected to Hashem because Hashem loves them and Hashem speaks to them. And now Yaakov Avinu, this is at least our first time that we see that there's a divine communique between Hashem and him. He says, look, I'm the same God that revealed to Avram your father, Velokei Yitzchak as well. Okay? And as we know, there are times that grandchildren are like children, or the grandfather is called the father. So here is the first prophecy to Yaakov Avinu. I'm quite interested in noting, I'm a little curious, what will be God's first communicating? What will he tell him first? Tefillin? Kashrut? Mezuzah? Shabbat? Let's read. Haaretz. We're ready now for 5 promises. If we would have a maestro telling you to play the drums or something. Promise, there you go. Promise number 1. Haaretz asharta shochev, the land that you're lying on her, lecha etenena ulizarecha. The first promise is to give you the land of Israel. You're lying down on what is the land that's given to Yaakov. All of Eretz Yisrael. Is it just that land that he's lying on is going to be given to him? Okay? I thought that the land is a little bigger than his body. So the famous midrash that's brought in the Gemara in Chulin, Yaakov saw in this vision, all of Eretz Yisrael folded, as if folded up, metaphysically, abstractly, folded up under him, under the slope of the ladder, to tell him, to teach him that all of the land of Israel is promised to him and to Zarecha, to your seed. Promise number 2 in this divine prophecy. Pasuk Yudalet, verse 14, Vayaz Zarecha ka'afar haaretz. Wow. Your seed will be like the dust of the land. What does that mean? And then it says, Ufaratzta, and you shall be strong, according to one meaning. Yamma vakedma, to the Yam, to the west. Vakedma, to the east. Vitzafona vanegba. What does it mean that your seed will be like the dust of the earth? Well, there's one of the great Sforno, who was in Italy in the 1400s. He says when Israel will be in the most lowest objective as far as humility is concerned, when we have tremendous humility, then we will be able to burst out into all directions. Let's sing the famous Chabad song, Ufaratzta, Ufaratzta, Yama Vakenma. Okay? When we have the great base humility, anava, that allows us to grow more and more. Do you know, as the Netziv of Volozhin explains in his commentary, that when we're in difficult situations, when we're in the Galut, Am Yisrael will multiply all across the world. Do you remember that we are to bring the light to the nations of the world? Not only the light, but the blessing. What did God tell Avram Avinu? That through you will the families of the earth be blessed. So, how will, when we're in the Galut and the nations of the world will be blessed through Israel, how do we see this? How will they be enlightened by the word of Am Yisrael? The answer will be when we continue to exist. Where is the great Babylonian Empire and the Persian Empire and the Roman Empire and the Greek Empire? They're underground. They're underground. It's a famous thing to say today in our war against the Hamas terrorists. Okay? And we're over the ground. We're on top of the ground. Okay? So the answer is, Am Yisrael continues to exist, and even though when we're scattered in the Galut, but when we're low as afar, we have the ability to have an impact on the nations. Now, so that 2 national promises, the land and the nation will grow. But what will be with Yaakov Avinu when he's abroad in these dangerous places? And we come to promise number 3. Pasuk, verse Tetvav 15. V'hinei anochi imach. I'm with you. What does that mean? Ushmarticha, I will preserve you, guard over you. Bechol asher telech. Why does Yaakov need this promise? And third, Vashivoticha el ha'adamazot. You're going to get a return trip ticket. May I ask all of you, in verse 15, why does the Torah use the word v'hinei as the opening word for this promise of guardianship, of protection? Okay? You might think, Eliyahu Kitov writes in his famous commentary, that the prior promise that the children will grow and grow, maybe that'll be in the distant future, or maybe even generations later on. The Torah says, no, v'hineh. You, Yaakov Avinu, you're going to start growing and growing and growing. In other words, this blessing of the development of what will become the nation of Israel will be like Yaakov Avinu. Avram Avinu only had how many children?
2.
Yitzchak Avinu had how many children? 2. Yaakov Avinu will have 12. 12 boys and 1 girl. Now, the reason why Yaakov requires protection, like we said, he has fear. Fear of leaving the land, the Holy Land. Fear that on the road he might be ambushed by Esav. And number 3, when he gets to the Galut and has to be next to Lavan, who was a cheat, he needs immediate protection. And therefore the word Vine, now. You're going to get immediate protection. We're now up to the end of Tetvav, although we read it. This could be a blessing, a promise in itself. Vashivoticha. You're going to get a return trip back. In other words, Rav Shimshon Raphael Hirsch explains in his great commentary, not only is protection promised to Yaakov Avinu, but he will have the ultimate return to the land of Israel. Why? Ki lo e'ezovcha. I'm not going to leave you. Simple promise. Hashem promises not to leave Yaakov Avinu on the road which is dangerous. Ad asher imasiti et asher dibarti lach. Until everything's accomplished. In other words, it seems right now that Avram Avinu has a 2-way ticket with protection from the beginning until the end. Psh, that's better than any insurance policy, isn't it? Okay? So this is something amazing. Okay? Do we see that there's a timetable here? Okay? Is there a watch going on? No. And this ends the dream. This ends this prophetic dream. What happens? Why does the dream end? Maybe he's restless. Pasuk Tedvav, verse 15. Vayikatz Yaakov. Who can help me pronounce the third word of this pasuk in the most proper way? Vayikatz Yaakov Mishnato. Well, if you read it that way, that means he got up from his Mishnah learning. Ah, very nice. Kol hakavod Chai. Chai notices that inside the letter Shin, do we all see what appears inside the letter Shin? A nikuda. There's a dot in it. It turns the vowel called Shva into a motioning, a moving Shva. And therefore it's properly pronounced like Chai said it, Mishinato. What usage do we have out of it? Because if we don't read it, then I hear it. Well, Yaakov was learning Mishnah. He got up from his Mishnah learning. Vayikatz Yaakov Mishnato, from his Mishnah. Come on, give me a break. The Mishnah wasn't given then. Okay? So we see that he gets up from. Oh, so what is the proper word? What mi shenato. Mi shenato. Shena is lishon. Shena is sleep. You see it? Shenato. Mishenato. Vayomer. And he says, Achein indeed. Yesh Hashem b'makom hazeh. Which word is repeated now maybe for the 4th time? B'makom. There must be a reason this code language is used 4 times. Ve'anochi lo yadati. Come on. Really? Yaakov doesn't know that God exists? Is that what he says? That God exists in this place? What does he mean?
This is the place for prayer?
Place for prayer. Very good. What else could it be? What does it mean that God is in this place? It's a place of appearance, revelation. Very good. What else? What's the highest place of revelation called? Shechina, divine presence. Obviously, Yaakov believes in God. And Yaakov learned the Chabad song, Hashem is here, Hashem is there, Hashem is everywhere. He knows that song. But what did he not know? That this is a special place of revelation. Wow. Prophecy. So direct, so special. Promises. That he didn't know. Vanochi lo yadati. And now, Yaakov makes an intellectual reaction and says, and calls this place 2 different names. Let's see it. Pasuk Yud Zayin verse 17. Vayira vayomar. Is it good to have fear?
Yeah, yes.
As Rav Kook explains, it's written in holy books even before Rav Kook, there are 2 types of yirah. He writes this in Orot HaTshuva on the Lights of Penitence. There's a yirat ha'onesh, a fear of punishment. That's one level of yirah. And there's a higher level of yirah called yirat ha'romimut, fear of exaltedness, that God is so great. It imbues in me this fear of the greatness of God, not of punishment, not fear of punishment. Apparently the yirah, if I understand correctly, that Yaakov is experiencing here, is yirat ha'romimut, the greatness of God. These 5 promises, this prophecy, sing the sulam, which has so much symbolic importance, and then out of this great fear, he makes the statement and says, Ma norah hamakom hazeh. Norah from the word yirah. Full of fear, this place. It's something unusual that I've never experienced elsewhere. And again, he uses the term hamakom hazeh. Number 5. Ein zeh ki im beit Elohim. He negates. This place is nothing but a beit Elohim v'zeh shara shamayim. Heard interestingly from Rav Kashtiel from Eli, a unique symbolic matter of calling the place Beit Elohim, yet at the same time, Shara Shamayim. It could be that the Midrash is filled with this. Yaakov Avinu saw and experienced metaphysically Malachim going up the ladder and angels going down the ladder. We talked about 2 symbolic matters that in our lives, in our world, we can climb and climb and climb and get closer to Hashem all the time. It's unending, it's infinite. At the same time, the Malachim coming down, we said that godliness permeates our existence. Heavenly matters, spirituality comes down here to the face of earth, to the feet of where we are. The same point we can say here in the name. On the one hand, it's Beit Elohim. Beit Elohim? There's a house for God here? Yes. We're going to learn about that, the building of the Beit HaMikdash. This place is a place for housing God, meaning the highest level of Shekhinah, the highest level of closeness. Unlike the Fifth Amendment to the United States Constitution, that everything is equal in this world, we don't see everything as equal in this world. There are different levels. That is our world. Our world is qualitatively different, has different spheres of qualitativeness, of goodliness, of greatness, closeness to God. So there's a place in this world for a bayit, to home, to enclose all these spiritual aspirations, all these holy objectives that we have. A Beit Elohim. Some of you know, later on in the book of Dvarim, when God refers to the mitzvah of the holy temple, Hamakom Hashem Yivchar Hashem, does it say Beit there? Maybe I'm mistaken. I'm trying to remember. No. Yes. There's a place that says Asher Yivchar Hashem, the place that will be chosen by God. Rambam, in his Mishnah Torah, when he writes about the laws of the building of the Beit HaMikdash, he calls it Hilchot Beit HaBechira, the laws of the chosen house. Beit Elohim. There's a place for the most spiritual aspirations of godliness here on earth. It's enclosed in a house. Furthermore, at the same time, there's a sha'ar. A what? To where? to heaven. Life is not monotonous. Life is not monotone. Life is not on the same level. Rather, we can build our lives one year after the other. Every month after the other month, every Rosh Chodesh, a new start, a new upliftingness, more connecting to holiness through my prayer, through chesed, through my smile, through doing the mitzvot, through learning Torah, of course. So here's this double objective. Beit Elokim permeates, godliness permeates down to earth through a bayit, yet we can keep on climbing up Shara Shamayim, the gate, which is the opening, the entrance to heaven. These are his two expressions, what he says here. Okay, we'll stop here with this point and we'll continue.